was long. Here we go with a very late review of Lil Durk's album from earlier this year. I think it came out in March, so it's not really like me to jump on a review so late in the game, although I do sometimes at the end of the year really like go backwards and see some of the more acclaimed albums and stuff I might have missed. But it's rare of me to go into reviewing an album that's like halfway through the year when it came out, like in March. But considering that Lil Durk has been pretty pivotal, I think, at the moment in terms of how successful he's been, how big he's become, it seemed wrong not to at least touch on anything that he's put out, because first of all, I've been listening to it recently and it's actually quite good. And second of all, well, he's so popular and it just feels weird not to talk about someone that is gaining so much traction. I listened to his album from 2020, I think it was, a few weeks ago, thought that was pretty good. But now we're on to this album here, and actually, you know what, it is even better than that one. I think he's refined his sound a little bit more. There are still some issues in the lyrical department of his writing and stuff that you're gonna get with modern pop, trap, pop, hip-hop music, pop rap, I guess you could call it. That's just kind of a given generally, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's excusable, and it doesn't necessarily mean that there are areas that he can improve on. There are tracks like AHHH, which I just think are really driving, really feisty. The beat is just really intense, and it doesn't like snap really hard, but it snaps at the same time. It's almost like a little bit like a lighter version of a Future song from Future's self-titled album. I guess those tracks really snap hard, but of course that's why that album overall is just a bit better than this one. But if you kind of like tone down some of the beats, if you kind of like took away some of the oomph, you'd get a song like this. You do have a Future feature later on in this album with Petty 2, and my god, that hook is probably the catchiest hook on the album, even though the you know, the words being said are obviously super petty. I mean, bitch, you're petty, but I'm petty too. It's just so catchy the way he says it. Of course, Future delivers a really fun verse as well. It's just these kinds of tracks that just are a bit more mindless, a bit more energized, that I think make Lil Durk really fun. Smoking and drinking as well is just so mindless, but of course it's fun. There's quite a few tracks like this, which I'm not going to talk about each individual one when so many of them offer the same sort of mindless, fun trap rap stuff that they do, you know, elsewhere on the same album. But then you do have some moments that try something a bit different, like Blocklist, and just the drama of it all isn't really interesting to me, to be honest. I just don't really find this kind of, well, I guess you could even call it petty, which is funny because there was a track about being petty already, but yeah, I just don't really have an interest in this. But then you do have tracks like No Interviews, which again just keep the energy going. Some really bizarre and funny lines, like she done set the standard for bad bitches, now everybody's got titties. I don't really know what that kind of means, but you know, he says things like this and it is funny. But then there are times where like the lyrics just become really strange and basically inexcusable, where you've got Head Tops, which has such a chilled out piano led beat. The vibe is really nice, and he comes through with a line like, remember the time my cousin died? I was like, no way. And it's like, how can you treat something so tragic as like no way? No way. It's like, what are you saying? Just so bizarre to hear that line jump out on such a nice track. It kind of kills off the vibe, to be honest. And there are tracks like Whatever Happened to Virgil, which again goes for a really nice, solemn vibe. I don't necessarily think his lyrics quite live up to it though. I don't necessarily think his writing is strong enough to pull off some of the emotions I think he's trying to convey. But again, I've said this already, you can't expect the world when it comes to music like this, which isn't, I don't want to brush it all with the same sort of paint and just, you know, leave it as one thing. But you've got to be honest and say to yourself that a lot of music in this vein doesn't exactly bring out the lyrical, miracle, spiritual stuff that's going to be super deep and make you think about things. I just think if he was just a stronger writer, tracks like this would just hit that a little bit harder. Federal Nightmares I found interesting because of the no sort of like auto-tuned refrain and then some of the backing vocals that come through as well remind me a lot of like early Kanye. And I mean like that sort of 808s era. I mean, even some like My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, where there's some of that auto-tune that comes through as well, definitely just gives me off that kind of thing. And I wouldn't be surprised if there is some kind of Kanye influence somewhere. I mean, Kanye wasn't the inventor of it, but it does definitely give off those vibes. And yeah, I mean, as for the rest of the album, like I say, a lot of it does offer the same sort of thing. He either slows things down, has a really nice piano-led beat, or he kind of goes harder and amps things up and gives you those snappier tracks, which are really fun and engaging as well. So I think, you know, has a decent blend of two styles here, which work really well. Like, I'm surprised that he pulls off some of the slower tracks. I'm surprised that he has the voice to carry those songs, but I think he does. And I'm also quite surprised that when he amps things up as well, he makes some really fun and exciting rap music, even if the lyrics could do with a bit of tidying up here and there. Now, the two styles I've just mentioned there that he pulls off, there is one style that he does not do well right at the end of the album, which is completely tacked on and so pointless and so bizarrely included on this album, Broadway Girls, which has Morgan Wallen on it. He is a country artist, and trying to blend country and hip hop like this never really works for me. I mean, just getting me, you know, giving me flashbacks of bloody Florida Georgia Line, Nelly Cruz. There were loads of other songs like this where they were trying to like bring these two genres together. I mean, they became hits in America, but they did not land anywhere else for good reason. And hopefully we've left those songs behind. I mean, I hoped anyway, but somehow Lil Durk decides to bring it back on this track here, and it just does not fit at all. It sounds really corny. There's just no blend going on here. It's just mashed together in a really ugly way. This just isn't for me. But yeah, I think overall Lil Durk's doing a good job here. I think this is a really good album. It's mostly just fun, sort of mindless music that you don't necessarily have to think about too hard. But I think for what it is, it's actually done well, and I'm pretty impressed with it. So yeah, I think Lil Durk is on a bit of an upward trajectory at the moment. I think there's some more potential in him to drop it something even better. But for what this is, I'm going to go 7 out of 10. I'm quite surprised at this score. I didn't think I'd be going as high as this, to be quite honest with you. But it's nice to be surprised every now and then by an album. And I think Lil Durk is doing a good job. And I think, yeah, like I say, there's more in him to drop something even better. Let's hope he keeps up the run and lives up to the potential, because I think this is good. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you have heard this. It's a late review. I don't even know if anyone's going to be that interested in my thoughts on this, to be quite honest with you. I don't have a clue, but I just wanted to get my thoughts out there because I thought it was good, worth talking about. Tell me your thoughts if you have heard it in the comments. Do have a good day. Subscribe if you haven't already, and goodbye.